Hello and thanks for joining us. Holly Shields here, live for 𝐊𝐶 TV, welcoming you all to Executive Corner Expert Talks, the show where we bring you industry leaders, successful business owners, all under one roof to help you discover the insights of the stock market. On today's show, we're joined by Jonathan Charles, a Managing Director of Mizzen Group, which is a pioneer marketplace for sea freight space shipping lines and freight forwarders. Welcome to the show, Jonathan. It's a pleasure meeting with you.
Likewise, and thank you for inviting me on.
Thanks for joining us. So, logistics requires tremendous efforts from clients and freight companies. Could you share the biggest challenges in the current market, and how do you see yourself in the market revolving in the foreseeable future?
Well, right now there's a huge demand for cargo, and there is a limited market capacity to carry that cargo, and that's resulting in shipment delays and also increasing costs to make those shipments. I guess to understand how this might sort of play out in the future, I think you need to go back and look at what are the drivers of the current situation. So if you go back to the very beginning of the pandemic, we saw a very rapid decline in cargo demand. China went into lockdown. There was no manufacturing. There was no exporting coming out of there. Then the rest of the world followed suit and they had their lockdowns. So shipping lines were expecting to see a rapid decline in cargo volumes, and they responded by rationalizing services. They took ships out of service, they laid them up at anchor to try and take out some of those operational costs, but also to better balance supply and demand. But that's not what the situation eventuated as. Consumer demand bounced back relatively quickly. There was government support put in place, and as we all began our life working and living at home, our consumption patterns changed as well. So we moved away from spending on services towards goods, as there were renovations, new furniture, home entertainment, and exercise equipment. These are all the goods that need to be shipped in containers, and that bolstered the demand for container shipping services. That capacity supply problem has been sort of compounded by port congestion, and that congestion is happening around the world, and it's caused by a number of reasons. There's been industrial action, there have been severe weather events, there have been maritime casualties. We had the Suez Canal closed for a number of days, and now we're seeing some operational restrictions in southern China ports as they try and contain an outbreak there. So really these have all compounded on the problem, and there are no short-term operational fixes for this. There isn't, you can't easily add more supply. The global container fleet is at a high utilization factor at the moment. There aren't more ships that can come in to meet that demand. Shipping lines have placed orders for new vessels and for new container fleets, but it's going to take time for these to come online. So really, in the short run, we'd expect to see tight supply, we'd expect to see a relatively high freight market maintained, and the big unknown is what's going to happen to demand. When will we see more normal patterns of consumption return as economies sort of recover, as countries come out of their lockdowns?
Right, so we're not going to see any ease in congestion in the short term?
I don't think so, no.
Okay. So an efficient freight management solution could significantly enhance the profitability of the shipping companies. Could you share your thoughts on that?
The container supply chain still has a high number of manual processes. So that can really be from obtaining a price to make a shipment, to booking that shipment, and then the subsequent documentation processes. So a lot of the technology solutions that are in the market today are really centered around automation, being able to create the capability for a customer to self-service, improving visibility, and then being able to support a better decision-making outcome. The industry is still really in a very early stages of digitalization, and in our area of focus, which is pricing, we see a level of sophistication that sits well behind what other sectors are using. But we're also seeing a rapid uptake in the digital sales channel, both in terms of the number of shipping lines that are offering that capability to their customers, and also in the percentage of volume that they're driving through this new channel. And that's going to be the catalyst for change and adoption of more sophisticated pricing techniques, because the majority of the solutions that are in the market today are really centered around bringing efficiencies to the current pricing practices. There's a key distinction between an instant quote and a dynamic price. And we see very few companies trying to utilize a digital transaction to create a new business model, one that's centered around improving the shipping line's profitability, as well as the level of experience that they deliver to their customers. And that's really been the focus of our products. So we see pricing technology being able to really provide a sort of a two-part value proposition, if you like, improving the revenue, but also helping shipping lines address variable cost, particularly of that associated with empty container repositioning spend. So you can optimize price, you can make better cargo selections to better manage your cargo flows between ports and your service network.
Right. So how do you see the shipping industry gaining from the dynamic pricing, as you mentioned, of freights amid the ongoing commodity price rally?
Well, generally, you'd have to say that the price elasticity of demand for container shipping is relatively inelastic. So we're going to see situations where there is more cargo to carry and available, you can increase prices. But shipping lines can also use dynamic pricing to make a targeted price reduction. So they can signal to the market and induce bookings towards underutilized vessel voyages. We talk about it as creating the capability for the shipping line to use price as a lever to steer the right cargo to the right vessel at the right price.
Okay, and I understand Mizzen uses technology-driven solutions to cater to the industry. How would you say a Mizzen group is placed against its peers?
Well, we see our product as a new software category in the context of container shipping. There's not widespread systematic revenue management at use in the industry, and there are very few specialist providers. There are general revenue management software providers out there, and in fact the passenger airline and the hotel model is often put forward as a potential solution to the container shipping sector. And it does share a lot of similarities. There's this notion of fixed perishable capacity. You've got demand that varies seasonally, and you have the ability to forecast demand to a certain extent. But the big difference in container shipping is it doesn't share that same low variable cost to high fixed cost ratio. And that's because shipping lines have two assets to manage. It's the vessel and also the empty container fleet to carry the cargo in. And that's a degree of complexity that just doesn't exist in those other models. So for a shipping line, it's not just simply about filling a ship. You have to fill it with the best possible cargo mix of different port pairs and equipment size type. And you need to look at being able to optimize the profitability of a particular vessel along with the carrier's service network as a whole. And that's really the focus of our software, is to help shipping lines to do this. The product's been built with a deep understanding of the container shipping sector, with expertise in revenue management, and we're building out a product to meet the unique needs of our customer base.
Right. So it sounds like you actually have quite a different aspect over your peers, quite a competitive edge.
That's right. Yeah, it's very very specialist, focused on the unique needs of what the sector needs to deliver a yield management and revenue management system in container shipping.
Right. And is there anything in particular on the horizon for Mizzen Group?
So we're still at the early stages of development of this product. So we'll be bringing that into market. We'll see some deployments with a shipping line, and then it's a case of just sort of adding more functionality to enhance the sophistication of the pricing outcomes and what we can deliver to the shipping lines.
Okay, so is that in the near future sometime?
Yeah, that's the short-term roadmap for us. Yeah.
Okay, that sounds really great. And on that note, it is about time to wrap up. But might I say, your insights have been very invaluable. Thanks so much for joining us today.
A pleasure. Thank you for having me on.
And thank you, viewers, for your time. Stay tuned for more live updates as we stay apprised and invest wise with 𝐊𝐴LKINE.